If I was to give you £500 million of equity, who are the people, what property and which place would you look to deploy that?
Good question. Well, and I know you gave me time, and I did think, well, it's obvious. We'll put money in our CASA, student housing. We'll put money in logistics.
Yeah.
I do think that London offices as a contractual play again is an interesting.
Super prime.
Super prime, fun enough, has held up better than we anticipated. We have invested in a couple of our funds, a French family office, very established, traditional owner of lots of super prime offices in Paris, want to buy the same in London. And we've looked at a couple, but they just haven't softened that much. So there's a building in St James's Street, 55, going through at a yield of around about 3.5%, which is off a bit, but it's still quite a strong price. And so but I think just off super prime. And I think where you have more transitional, where you have tenants coming out or tenants not renewing, debt coming up, then I think we'll see some quite big discounts. So I think I would go a little bit further at risk curve, but I think more core plus than value add.
Yeah.
So in terms of the place, the final place, and I know this is a bit left field because I have absolutely no experience there at all, but I think somewhere like Poland, because I mentioned earlier, I'm concerned about the low growth prospects for the UK generally. And I think over the last 10 years, the UK has grown at 0.5% per annum GDP and Poland's grown at 3.5% per annum. So there'll soon be English builders going out and working in Warsaw.
Yeah.
And I think that Poland, I think there are real problems, and we take liquidity or relative liquidity in real estate a bit for granted in this country. And I know that if you go to a lot of other countries, it's much harder to sell, it takes much longer. And I think if you can get comfortable with liquidity, I think just to invest in somewhere where you see growth. And I think we've long debated whether we should be more active. We should look to do something in Europe.
I was going to say that because you're UK, aren't you?
We're totally UK.
And that's the question I was going to ask you in terms of, was that a conscious decision rather than expanding into Europe?
It has been a conscious decision, but we talked earlier about how the model is changing, or rather our old model is no longer in demand to the extent it was previously. And part of that is, and we've talked to various people over the years about potentially joint venturing or them investing in us to invest in Europe or partnering with someone who already exists. So it's definitely something that is there under consideration. It's not something we're actively pursuing, but we have a couple of irons in the fire.
It'd be remiss of a property entrepreneur like yourself and the wider team not to look at your options, not to consider it, and not to look at where returns and potential growth could come as well.
But I quite fancy, and I've always quite fancied Eastern Europe or Central Europe, because I don't think Germany's got any greater growth potential than we have.
Even given Ukraine and Russia's situation?
Yes, and I did think about that. I think even given Ukraine, maybe that's the time an interesting entry point. I certainly wouldn't invest in Ukraine itself,
right?
And I wouldn't invest in Belarus. But I do think, as I said, I think Poland is quite an interesting place that it's growing fast.
Yeah,
is I think relatively strong regulatory on a relative basis. I think the regulatory framework is better there than some other countries in Eastern Europe, and I think that might be an interesting space. I think going any further afield than that would be a challenge.
And how about the people part? And of course you can have your amazing team of 30 odd at Clearbell. You're clearly very well networked and very well known, and you've got a lot of peers who've kind of gone through the ranks with you who are doing amazing things across the industry. Would you grab any of those on the journey to help you kind of build or deploy this capital into those various different kind of places and projects?
I'd take all of them. And I'm joking apart. We've talked about this recently. We've had a few changes in lineup, personnel, and sadly our fourth fundraise wasn't as successful as we hoped to, and we had to make a couple of redundancies, which is obviously very sad because we've worked with people for a long time. But it does mean that we have a very lean, focused, capable team, and we're very comfortable with where they sit at the moment and the prospects within that. I think the other thing that we are open to is we've got a big platform. We've got the capability to take on more entrepreneurs. So we've had a couple of conversations with people to come in and to scale, to use what we have, to come in with a great idea, with a great fund management idea, with great capital, but need the platform around them. And that's something. So those are the people that I'm most interested really in bolting on at the moment. And it might be in one of the places that I've already talked about in terms of deploying, but it might be something totally different. So I think that is something that, in fact, I think one of my projects between now and the end of the year is to work a little bit harder on that, is to who are the next generation of entrepreneurs that we can team up with
and tap into.
We can offer a lot in terms of experience and support. What can they offer in terms of energy and ideas?
Well, yeah, as I said, I'm doing a search at the moment for a similar business that's been more office focused, that's got a lot of capital behind them, and actually we're retained on a search to find them someone to come and head up their living platform. So yeah, that's obviously kind of clearly defined, but I guess for you, you're a little bit more open to ideas in terms of what that might kind of look like in terms of kind of area or niche or something to go and get, and they can get the backing and the benefit and the resources that you and the team have in place to go and deploy and build a business within a business, as it were.
Yeah, maybe that's something that you can help us with.